Hey everyone, hope you're well. Welcome to The Loft. My name's Ben, and today I wanted to go over a particular method that can be used to work out how long you have to be invested in a particular security or investment in order to double your money with a set rate of return. Conversely, we can also use it to work out what rate of return we need in order to double our money over a set period of time. This is called the Rule of 72, and I do want to highlight that there are a few flaws and pitfalls with this one. So make sure to stick around to the end where I'll cover those just to make sure you don't fall into any of the traps. But let's have a look at the Rule of 72 and how it works. So the Rule of 72 is essentially a way of getting a rough figure for the amount of time we need to be invested at a set rate of return to double our money, or as I mentioned, the opposite in the sense of what rate of return we need to be able to double our money in a set period of time. It is a relatively quick and rough way of doing it, so it's not exactly precise, but we'll touch on that a bit later. This is used for essentially investments that are affected by compound interest over simple interest. And if you are interested in a video on the differences between compound interest and simple interest, let me know down in the comments below and I'd be happy to do a video about that. But just for the purpose of this video, essentially compound interest is the act of where interest you've been paid is generating you further interest in the future. So it creates kind of a snowball effect and your interest grows exponentially over time. Now, let's look at an example and how the calculation actually works. So for today, let's make a base assumption that we were investing £15,000 and we knew that we were getting a guaranteed yearly return of 10%. And we want to know how long it would take for us to double our money. Some people may look at this and go, well, you're getting 10% of 15,000, which is 1,500. 1,500 times 10 equals 15,000. Therefore, it's 10 years until you make your money back. However, that is only applicable for simple interest, whereas majority of the investments we do if we're reinvesting money, that would be compound interest, which is where the £1,500 that we got in the first year would go back into the pot to generate us additional money for the following years as mentioned. So to try and solve this quickly and in a relatively dirty way, we'll use the Rule of 72. And all we do is we take the magic number of 72 and we divide it by the return we want. So in this case, it would be 10%. Generally, you'd be looking to do this in a decimal format rather than as a percentage. But for my example today, we're just going to use the whole number and not worry about dividing the final figure by 100 to get to the percentage that we want. So let's have a look and see what the actual calculation looks like and what period of time it takes for the money to double in this example of £15,000 and also a 10% guaranteed return. So if we look at this, all we do is we stick it all into a calculator. It's a nice simple equation and we take the 72 and we divide that by 10 and that shows us 7.2, meaning that we would be doubling our money in roughly 7.2 years and using the invested compound interest rather than the normal interest that you would get. So we're essentially shaving 2.8 years off of the overall equation, whereas we'd be looking at 10 years for simple interest, we're looking at about 7.2, give or take, for compound interest. As mentioned, we can also swap a few details on this around and essentially come up with the rate of return that we're required in order to double our money within a set period of time. So if we're using the same example of £15,000 and we wanted to be able to double our money in 6 years, we'd simply take the 72 and we would divide that by 6, which is the 6 years that we want to double our money in. And it would spit out an overall figure, in this case 12%, which shows that we would need to get a 12% year-on-year return on our money in order to double it in roughly 6 years. Now, as I mentioned, there are a few flaws in this particular method, but don't worry, I haven't forgotten to discuss them any more than you've forgotten to hit the like button. Now, one of the main flaws for this is that it's not exactly a precise calculation. As we could see, if we were to go through and actually work out the compound interest for this figure manually, it shows that 7.2 years actually takes us to £14,718 rather than the £15,000 we were looking for. So we are a little bit short by around £300. But we're essentially trading a little bit of accuracy for the speed of being able to just take the two figures, divide them and get an overall figure. The other issue that we present is that at the extremes of the formula, they don't work as well. And one example of this, and what I mean by an extreme, is if we were saying that we could achieve 100% guaranteed return over a year, and we put that into the formula would tell us that we would make our money back and double our money in 7.2 months, which we know isn't correct, because if we're making 100%, so we're doubling our money in a year, we wouldn't be doing that in 7.2 months because that's not a year. So if you do use this method and you get anything that seems a little bit ambiguous and a bit odd, just double check it could be something similar to this. So that is one of the, well, a couple of the disadvantages of the rule of 72. But if you keep to the realms of realism, so not too high in your rate of return, not too short in the period of time you want to see your return, you will get relatively accurate figures for the speed of using the calculation. If you wanted to work it out manually or essentially take it from somewhere else without having to do this, you could use something like an online compound interest calculator. You simply put in the figures for the amount you're investing, how long it compounds, etc. And it will spit out a full list of information that you could just export or use however you see fit. So there is another way, but if you don't have the internet, this is a very simple way of simply taking two numbers and working out how much of a return you need or how long you have to wait until you receive your money back. So overall, that's not particularly too bad. And in the certain situations, you might be happy just to take a rough and ready figure that this formula generates. So I do want to take 2 moments just to ask, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It really does help the channel out. And also, we have a giveaway running that this video is part of. It runs through all of May, so we've got another week or so, give or take. And if you want to enter, all you need is an Instagram. And if you want a bit more information on how that works, how to enter and everything like that, I'd check out this video here where I try and break it down in a concise and understandable manner, hopefully. And until next time, remember to invest, save, and subscribe.